this was the first time I've ever really learned about unions and how and the purpose that they served. And so learning that the worker can regain this sense of power of independence but also assurance that the company will do right by them was by far the biggest thing that I was able to learn.
My name is Rebecca Sellnow, and I'm a molecular technologist in a cancer testing lab.
And my name is Vivian Villalobos, and I'm an application scientist, also in a clinical laboratory. We were experiencing some safety concerns that raised a few red flags to some of our employees that have several years of background experience in other labs. And we also were concerned with the wages and benefit packet that our employer offered us. And for the type of industry that we're in, it wasn't aligning with other industry standards. And so we, as we tried to work with the company to kind of meet our needs, we learned about union organization, and that was kind of the road that we decided to take.
The baseline for our job is perfection. That is the bare minimum for everything that we do. And we feel that that deserves higher compensation than what we're currently earning and seeing reflected. So our colleague Anson went union shopping, as he calls it. He contacted many unions, and the IAM was the union that responded the fastest, addressed his concerns the best. Really, we're just there to help him out in any way that he needed. He really liked that energy and that assistance that he was receiving from the IAM, and he thought that we could have a good working relationship with him.
And as we did more research on the IAM, they were more experienced with our specific healthcare biotech industry. And so we agreed they were the most appropriate union to work with. So it was by invite. During the organization process, we kind of kept things under wraps, but as members were included, only members that we felt understood the goals that we were trying to achieve and cared enough about making the necessary changes within the company were invited to participate in our organizing committee.
I joined the organizing committee shortly after the company made a unilateral change in our PTO policy. And as you can imagine, there's a lot of upset over it. And at a meeting to discuss the changes that have been made, a friend of mine at work told me about the unionization effort, and I signed an A card immediately.
I think the other big thing aside from wages and benefits were safety concerns. We are a clinical lab, and we work with robust machinery. We work with very hazardous materials, and we did not believe that the company was doing all that it could to ensure that we, at all moments of our work days, were safe from all of these variables.
So since we went public with the union, but before we held our election, we actually received 2 new holidays as lab employees. We have less holidays off overall than office employees, but as we see it as a response to our unionization effort, they added 2 new paid holidays.
And I would say in response to our safety concerns, they have been more receptive. They have been, their response time has been lessened to our concerns. So it did appear they were taking it more seriously.
In this, in our field, it's a very young field. So there is a lot of sentiment of people know that unions are good, they know that they're beneficial, but they don't particularly know why or what unions do. So a lot of what we focused on was education, educating young people on why they need a union, even in a laboratory. A lot of people told me, like, there are no lab unions. What are we doing? That's just for mechanics. And actually, when you break it down, we have a lot of the same concerns that mechanics do. We want safety on the job. We want, better wages, better hours.
I think that once we were able to provide some of this information to our colleagues, the next part was really taking the time to listen to what their concerns were, and then gathering more information for them so that they can really be prepared for next. We definitely experienced colleagues that were probably possibly hesitant, weren't fully comfortable with exposing themselves as part of the union in fear of what the company might do. So we did experience that, and we tried to give them the facts to kind of be at ease that their biggest fears wouldn't come to life. And we held several informational meetings. We were always consistent with how we were communicating, and that really built trust that the company had lost with their employees. So we ensured to maintain the communication, and just remind them that we were there for whatever they needed. I think that the power to be able to negotiate your needs, your job security, were amongst the most important. This was the first time I've ever really learned about unions and how and the purpose that they served. And so learning that the worker can regain this sense of power of independence, but also assurance that the company will do right by them, was by far the biggest thing that I was able to learn.
The biggest takeaway for me from this process was that workers who stand together have power, have a lot more power than a lot of people think. And together, like through community, we can actually make positive change in our environment around us. I have two pieces of advice: be persistent and be personal. I know a huge aspect of our strategy was having one-on-one or small group conversations with our coworkers. We wanted to make sure that everyone felt important, felt like they were involved, and that every single person's concerns were heard.
My two pieces of advice I would give a professional is to know your rights, learn as much about your rights as possible, and to speak up for yourself, speak up for others. Never turn a blind eye, because the best thing that you could do is help yourself and help someone else. I would say some of the big things that we are hoping to achieve with our contract is just better pay and better benefits for our employees. We want to make sure that everyone is able to provide for their families and be able to still work and provide for the patients that we are always dedicated to?
First union contract, we're looking to secure processes in place that will ensure optimal patient safety in everything that we do. We want to make sure we're getting the best results possible while still being as efficient as possible.